Hey everyone! I've been wanting to work with epoxy resin for a while, and then I came across a coffee table that had been in use for at least as long as the dining room table I restored in my previous video. I recently found a small oak log. Someone had thrown it away, but I'm actually going to find it very useful. It turns out it's not that hard to cut the wood with a chainsaw. It turned out a little crooked, of course, but it'll do. The slabs were very damp. I found a quick drying method online called Plait It. First, you need to make slits in the plastic film to allow for ventilation. Then, wrap the slabs in several layers of paper. I wrapped them in newspaper, and then in plastic film. I changed the newspaper every 6 to 8 hours for the first 2 days. Then I couldn't take it anymore and added a radiator to the process. I dried them this way for another 3 days. By the end, the wood was pretty dry, but still damp. I decided to take a chance and stuck them in the oven. While the wood was drying, I worked on the frame. The chrome on this table was pretty badly damaged, a lot of peeling and rust, so it needed to be removed. I immediately tried abrasives, but after a couple of minutes, I realized it was useless. I found out that galvanic chrome can be removed. I did some more research online. I decided to try salt. I made a salt solution of about 1 part salt and 5 parts warm water. I got the current from the power supply for the LED strip. Mine just happens to be 12A. I connected the negative terminal to the stainless steel and the positive terminal to the body of the table. Something started bubbling, so I left it for 30 minutes. I took the table out and saw that the chrome had become slightly dull. The water had turned green and a brown foam had formed on it. I realized that the power supply probably didn't have enough capacity for such a large volume of liquid. At the time, I was welding a woodworking table and decided to try hooking up a welder. By the way, it also uses direct current. I set the welder's amperage to the lowest setting, 30A. The water was already bubbling quite noticeably. After about 10 minutes, the water had turned blackish green. I took the part out. The chrome was starting to come off, but the metal was still showing signs of damage. And it hadn't come off completely, only about 70%. I was afraid to soak it again for any longer, lest the metal dissolve. I bought 2 5-liter jars of electrolyte. By the way, don't forget about personal protective equipment, as the fumes are toxic. And I finally got the chrome off. But, as you can see, the salt solution had damaged the part quite badly, so table salt isn't suitable for electroplating. Before painting, be sure to prime and coat the part with 3 coats of matte black paint. I'm checking the slab. The wood has been dry for a couple of days. Yes, a couple of cracks have appeared. To be honest, I thought there would be many more. I made router attachments from old cabinet scraps. I bought a 32 diameter groove router. I secured the slabs to the table with screws and leveled the surface on all sides using a freeze. I always sand them. The router bit left some small marks. I cleaned the uneven edges of the slab from any remaining bark using a regular flap wheel. I trimmed it to size with a 1 centimeter allowance. Now I make a mold for filling with epoxy resin. I used a 1 cm thick sheet of chipboard for the mold. I screwed the molds together with screws. Before doing this, I generously coated everything with silicone. I used silicone grease as a release agent between the mold and the resin. Now here's my first mistake. I didn't secure the boards properly. Before filling with resin, I had to remove them because they were in the way. We mix the epoxy resin according to the instructions. The second mistake, but I made it intentionally. The entire wood needed to be primed. This is the same as with resin, but it's done within 24 hours. Since I'm working outside, I was worried about a lot of debris sticking to the mold. That's why I poured it all at once. I used a blowtorch to expel any bubbles for an hour. Three days later, we disassembled the mold. To my surprise, it came apart very easily. Yes, there are plenty of defective pieces, but this was my first experience, so I was satisfied, despite some mistakes during pouring. I removed excess resin with a flute. It's sanded with an eccentric sander. I coated the tabletop with Vreeton Alkyd Yacht varnish. Yes, it yellowed the epoxy, but this varnish withstands high temperatures well. I applied 3 coats of it, removing debris with sandpaper between coats. I painted the bottom panel matte black, like the frame, and let it dry. All the parts are ready. Let's begin assembly. Thanks for watching.